What's up, guys? It's none other than Travis Sherman, and for whatever reason, the people that run this thing keep letting me come back and do more. I honestly don't know what they're thinking, but I am definitely filing a complaint because they should not be allowing me to be in this position. But until then, we have business to take care of, and I'm not kidding when I tell you that today's tutorial, we are covering an immense amount of material. We are going to get into the editing process today. That's right, we are starting to make our first edits. We're going to go over several different techniques and shortcut keys, and by the time this tutorial is over, you will be making the next big blockbuster, hopefully starring me, because I've been stuck inside now for 3 weeks, and I will literally do anything to get out. I'm excited, you should be too, because I feel the need for speed, so let's get right to it. But before we do, you know what time it is. That's right, I couldn't let us get started without the joke of the day, so here we go. A drum roll, please. Building it, keep building the suspense. That's it, build the suspense, make them wait, stop. What is the heaviest thing a grip carries? the art department. I know. What? We've got a live studio audience now? I literally don't know how much better this production value can get. We have 1.8 million viewers right now and a live studio audience. I mean, I just don't know what else I can give to you guys. This is just getting insane. All right, let's get back to business. As always, we're going to do a quick refresher. This time we are recapping part 2. If you didn't get a chance to view part 2, it was literally better than watching Avengers Endgame. I think we may be getting a Grammy or something. Bare minimum, Pulitzer Prize for sure. So if you missed it, that's okay, but head on over to the Springdale Public Schools YouTube channel. Look for Adobe Premiere Pro Editing 101 Part 2. You can also find Part 1 there as well, but for now, don't go anywhere. Let's do a quick recap. Cue the music. I'm in love with the music, I don't know. Let's switch over to the screen, shall we? Okay, so we talked about creating a bin type file, a folder system on your desktop to stay organized, keeping everything in there. Again, if you don't know how to do that, please make sure you go to part 2. We will reevaluate how to do that on part 2. For right now, we're going to open up Premiere Pro and talk about what we discussed doing on Friday, Friday it was. So the first thing that we're doing, open up Premiere Pro. Okay, once inside Premiere Pro, whoa, let's expand that, sorry guys. Once inside Premiere Pro, we did talk about creating a file system. We did talk about the ways of importing, so we've got 3 different ways. The first was file, import, and that's pretty simple. The second way was in your project window. We are going to right-click and import. And then the third way was hitting Command-I, that's your shortcut key for importing, Command-I. We talked about list view, which is currently right now, list view. We talked about icon view, which is this. And the big thing that we did not want to do is if we double clicked on it, it actually opens up a separate tab. Remember, efficiency is what we're looking for, efficiency and organization. The more tabs you have open, the more difficult it's going to become. So make sure you're not double clicking. Make sure that you are in list view. Some people are going to argue that fact, but I think it's just going to be a lot more simple for you. We also talked about pulling up a shot. If you double click on the icons, it pulls up the shot. Right here you have a timeline marker. You can scrub through by clicking and dragging it. You can kind of see what this is all about. The other thing is hitting the space bar will actually play it. Okay. Creating a bin, real quick. You can right click, new bin, and it'll create a bin for you. Again, the big thing, do not double click on bins. Even in list view, make sure you hit the drop down arrow. That's gonna save you a lot of time. Okay, so that recaps everything. So now let's get back into it with part 3, where today we're actually getting into the editing process. There is so much to cover, so make sure you have the pizza rolls cooking and plenty of Mountain Dew, because we are about to pull an all-nighter. Here we go. All right, so we are actually going to open up a different project today that we've been working on. I just felt this project may be a better demonstration of everything we need to cover. This project is actually called Camera Warfare, and this was a project I did with my students 7 years ago. That's right, 7, count it, 7 years ago. This project actually won first place in the nation at the Student Television Network Convention, so whoever edited it a long time ago apparently did a great job. So disclaimer, before we begin, I wanted this to be as close to a replication of what it would be like if you as viewers were given the footage and told, edit this. So I have not seen this footage in almost 8 years. I've gone ahead and replaced everything in the bins already, just to save us a little time. If you don't know what bins are, remember, go to the AMI Video Productions playlist on the Springdale Public Schools YouTube channel, and Adobe Premiere Pro Editing 101 Part 2 explains all of that. So for now, let's get started and see where this goes. I know this will be a long tutorial, but as an added bonus, if you stick around for the entire video, I'll show you one clip at the very end of what I looked like almost 8 years ago. Wow, will that be a treat. All right, here we go. So as I said, I went ahead and organized everything into bins for us already. It took me about 45 minutes to do that, so instead of you just watching me sort everything for 45 minutes, I went ahead and did that for us, but that is the only thing I've done. Again, I haven't really seen this footage in 8 years, so there may be mistakes, but this is good. It's a good learning process. The first thing that we need to talk about, very first thing, some of you have probably already been confused by this, but we need to go up to Premiere Pro at the very top, and we're going to go down, we need to go, Premiere Pro at the very top, and we're going to go down to Keyboard Shortcuts. Okay, by default, your keyboard layout preset is going to be set to Adobe Premiere Pro. All right, some of you have probably learned on Adobe Premiere Pro. I would encourage us, I teach everyone to operate off of Final Cut Pro 7. The reason being is that a lot of the older people started out on Final Cut. Final Cut switched to a software called Final Cut X, which in my opinion was about 16 steps backwards. And so everybody kind of quit Final Cut and switched to Adobe. There is Avid is the other software, which is, think of Avid as Adobe Premiere Pro on steroids. There's like Sony Vegas. I don't know if many people use Sony Vegas, but if you use Final Cut Pro 7, it's kind of a nice segue into all the other programs. People are more apt to be able to help you. So we're going to go ahead and switch our keyboard layout preset to Final Cut Pro 7. That's very important. If you don't do this and I start talking about keyboard shortcuts, it's not going to work because it's by default set to Adobe Premiere Pro. So make sure, again, that we are setting it to Final Cut Pro 7. All right, so we're going to click OK. Okay, so let's look through this. We've got several different bins. We've got AE Scope, which is probably an After Effects composition that we created in After Effects for something. We'll get into that later. We've got Battlefield SFX. If you don't know what SFX stands for, that is sound effects. Battlefield sound effects. We've got an ending shot, and that is the treat. If you stay to the very end, you'll get to see that. We've got a fight scene. Ooh. We've got We've got Out of Space, Scene 1 Battlefield, Scene 1 Intro, Scope Shot, Sequences, more sound effects, Taking the Hill, Twixtor. All right, so before slow motion became readily available, you know, you've got the 1DX Mark II, you've got even the Mark III. There's a bunch of different cameras that now do slow motion. Back when we shot this 8 years ago, slow motion was only for cameras that were $15,000 plus. So we actually purchased an app called Twixtor. And what Twixtor did was you drop the footage into this program and you said, I want it to be, you know, 120 frames per second. And what it did was it converted 24 frames into 120, and it just guessed what the frames would look like in between. It wasn't a great program, but it did the job. So we have a Twixtor bin full of probably clips that we tried to convert into slow motion. VFX, if you don't know what that is a visual effects. We have War B-roll, and then we have Who Brings a Dolly. Okay, so that goes over all the bins. We are going to start with the one that I would guess is Scene 1 Intro, and I'm going to click the drop-down arrow, and we are going to go into the first shot. So double-click on the icon, and let's kind of scrub through this. It looks like we've got some guys in camo walking through the forest. The second shot, same thing. Guys walking in. So I'm actually going to use the first shot. Let me put on my headphones here so I can hear what we're doing with. Yeah, down there. All right, so you can clearly hear me giving some direction to our actors. Obviously, we do not want to use that type of stuff in our edits, so we ideally would cut that out. So let's watch this. Yeah, down there. And go 1, 2,
And come back.
Okay, so we've got some action going on. We've got me queuing them. 1 is 1, 2 is the second person, 3 is the second person. And so here is the biggest mistake that people make right off the bat when they start editing. The biggest mistake. What they're going to do is they're going to drag this entire clip down into the timeline, right? So you could do this. By the way, there's going to be a message pop up, and I will discuss that. So I'm going to drag this entire clip down. You'll see there's a plus mark right on the timeline window. That means you're adding something to the timeline. So I'm going to drag and let it go. There was no message. Normally it comes up with a message that says, do you want to conform this sequence? If you ever get that message, the answer is always yes. Adobe Premiere Pro, by default, figures out what you shot this footage at. And by default, it will conform your sequence. If you click no, it's not going to conform your sequence. So this was shot in HD, and by default, it's just going to convert it to standard definition. It'll be a weird aspect ratio because you're not conforming the sequence. So if you ever get an error message, it's not really an error message, it just says, would you like to conform the sequence to the sequence settings? The answer is always yes. Please make sure you do that. Okay, so by default, or I'm sorry, what editors mostly do when they just start out is they drag this entire clip down and then they start cutting it up, which I'll show you how to do. They start cutting it up in different pieces and they're like, I'm going to delete this and I don't really want this part, I just want this, right? There is a bunch wrong with that. Again, efficiency and organization. I'm going to show you a quick shortcut key. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah, down there. And go 1.
Okay, so what you can do, obviously we don't want me talking in the background, so I'm going to try and scrub to where it stops after I talk.
And go 1.
Okay, right there. And I'm going to click my next shortcut key, which is I. I stands for endpoint. So you are now telling the computer you want your clip to start right here. Okay, and I'm going to hit play, or the space bar, sorry, I'm going to hit the space bar.
2, 3.
Okay, we'll stop it right there. And next I'm going to hit O. So you have now set what's called an in point and an out point. You want the clip to start right here, and you want the clip to end right here. Now, when you drag it down, you can see that the clip is a lot smaller and it's more workable, right? So this is something that we should always do, is set your in point and out points. Now, let's say you get to the editing and you're like, man, I really messed up. I wish I would have set my out point longer. Well, you could. You could obviously go back to the clip, come over here, set your out point, drag it down, and it will be longer, right? You could do that. Or the easiest thing to do is if you hover over the end of it, it turns into a red arrow. And now if you click and drag, you can drag it out or shorten it if you need to. So just because it's in the timeline doesn't mean it's done. There's still that option to manipulate it, okay? So you could slide this over and drag out the front if you needed to. There's always that option. You just want to stay as organized as humanly possible. Okay, so let's go over what we're seeing in the timeline. Right now, obviously you should know what this is. This is a timeline marker, right? So again, it acts just like the sequence. You could drag this out, or sorry, you could drag this around and kind of scrub through the footage, okay, if you needed to. Looks like my computer's acting a little slow. There we go. All right, you could drag it around, right? It still scrubs for you, so this is your timeline marker. This is important. Right here on the left-hand side is what we call timecode, and you'll also see timecode right here at the top, okay? So timecode is an exact time for video. We typically measure timecode in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So right now we have 0 hours, 0 minutes, 6 seconds and 41 frames, which probably means this was shot at 60 frames per second. Let's see. Correct. Okay, so we have 5 seconds, 51 frames, right? So it's an easy way to define things. That way, if somebody comes back and says, I need you to fix some changes, if you could go to the 3-minute, 24-second, and 12-frame mark, that's where I want you to start. You know exactly where it's at. It's very helpful in defining the edit process. Okay? All right. So you see that you've got a solid blue, and then you've got some kind of weird lines going on this one. This is your video, and this is your audio. If you look over here, you've got what's called V1 and A1. That stands for Video 1 and Audio 1. Those are your tracks. Your video track is on top. Your audio track is on the bottom. You can add up to 32 video tracks if you needed to. 32, that's a lot. You can also add up to 32 editing tracks if you needed to. So, as feature films, they probably use every bit of that plus more. So the reason they do that is for layering. If you want to do effects, you can have some on another track. Graphics, if you tune in for the next tutorial, part 4, we'll go over graphics, and we'll probably add that to a different video track. Sound effects, they really layer sound effects. You know, you've probably heard of people like the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park is like a gorilla, a toilet flushing, the ocean crashing, right? So those are 3 different effects that they probably layer together. So you might have an effect here, an effect on audio 2, an effect on audio 3, and when you combine it, it sounds like a T-Rex. Okay, so you can have up to 32 tracks. All right, so these are called source targets right here. Video 1, audio 1, source targets. If I turn them off, now when I drag in video, it will not allow me to drag in the video. It'll just take the audio. Okay, so these are source targets. You can turn those on and off. I'll show you another way to manipulate. This is a lock. So if I click the video lock, now it will not allow me to make any changes to the video layer. Okay, so if I unclick this and I drag this around, you see that they're linked together. If I turn this lock on and now I drag it around, you see that the video track is locked. You cannot manipulate the video track because it is locked. You can also do it to the audio track if you wanted to. The eye right here allows you to turn it on and off. So if you've got multiple video layers, this is great because you can kind of isolate and see what is underneath. So if I turn this off, obviously it's going to be a black screen because we have nothing, right? Turn it back on. The same with the audio. If you don't want to hear the audio, right now if I play it, you hear me talking, right? If I play it again, but this time I turn on the M for mute, there is no audio, right? So it helps if you're trying to pinpoint things, so just know that that's what that does. Okay. On the right-hand side, we've got what are called VU meters. This is your audio meters. This is very important, especially if you're just getting into the game and don't really know much about video or audio. We say that it's important because it's measured in decibels. Right now, it looks like we've got the audio hitting right around -24. Anytime somebody is speaking, their audio should hit between -6 and -12. Very important. Anytime somebody's speaking, -6 and -12. Obviously, that's not working. Right? So this is probably not usable audio, which is good. We wouldn't use this anyway. Okay, music is typically right around the -24 mark, if not lower, depending on what you're trying to do. If it's just a really soft ambient background, I might put it at -30. If you want it more prominent, -24. And then obviously if you're doing a music video, that is the most prominent thing, so it'd be at -6. Okay, we went over that. All right, let's begin the editing process. So I'm going to play this back again. I'm going to scrub to the beginning. And let's hit the space bar. Okay, for the sake of this edit, I want the shot to start a little quicker. So we've got some dead space here. I want it to start right before the camera enters the frame. So I'm going to drag it there. If you need a little help pinpointing, what you can do is use your arrow keys. That's your next shortcut key. If you use your arrow keys, left goes one frame at a time. Right goes one frame at a time. Up advances to the very end of the shot. I'm sorry, the very beginning of the shot. And down advances to the end. So if you need to scan through a bunch of shots real fast, you can do that. So I'm going to start this clip right before the camera enters. So there's the camera. Let's use our arrow keys and go left. That looks good to me. I'm going to hover over the beginning and drag it in. Right? All right, so we always want all of our shots to start at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? That is the beginning of the video. So we're going to click and drag it over. All right, let's play the video.
2, 3.
Okay, don't worry about me talking in the background. We will go back and fix that later. Right now, we just want to get the footage in there. So we are going to go to our next shot. So let's scroll up here. Oh, by the way, this right here is called your sequence. So we have created a sequence. So you can double click on it and rename it. You can also single click and hit enter and rename it. So we're going to name this Camera Warfare. I should have, let's see if I've got a bin for sequences. I do, right here. So I'm going to drag this sequence into the bin, clean up our project window. All right, let's go back to scene 1 intro and see what's next. We've got, oh, nice. We've got some feet here. All right, so this is nice. All right, a good technique to know, we could obviously set in and out points, which we're going to do. So I'm going to set the in point right before his foot enters the frame. So right there, I for in. Hit the space bar, let it play out. Let us feet exit, O for out. All right, we could drag this down just by clicking and dragging it down. I don't want to do that. Instead, right here, you'll see 2 buttons. One says drag video only. One says drag audio only. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the video, just video, to video layer 2. Now this is a pretty bad habit to do. It's called checkerboard editing. We don't really encourage that because it's going to cause problems. What is going on with the... Sorry, my computer's lagging a little bit, guys. There we go. All right, so we don't really encourage this because it causes chaos in your timeline. So make sure that once you've finished editing, you drag it down to layer 1. I'll show you what that means. So we've got, if I press play, we've got him entering. So what I could do, I'm going to drag this over a little bit. Let's see what it is.
2, 3.
Yeah, right about there, I'm going to have his feet come in.
2, 3.
That looks pretty good. Maybe I shorten it up a little bit. Right there, I'll stop it. And again, you can just select at the very end and drag it backwards.
3.
That looks pretty good to me. Okay, so we've got now a matching action, right?
2.
We've got these people walking through the woods. He comes in, we see his feet, the leaves rustling, cuts away, back to the wide shot again. Now, we have 2 layers of video going on. Again, that causes chaos. So what we want to do is we want to drag this down to video 1. You'll notice by default, it doesn't want to move, right? You'll see this, if you look right below the clip, there's a little gray bar right there. And that is your time code. So it's showing that if you move it down, it's moving 0 frames. But watch what happens if I slide it. Moves 38 frames. It's moved a second and 4 frames. So be careful what you're doing. make sure that you don't move it. We just want to drag it straight down. If there's any doubt, you can always hold shift and it will not move. It's only going to go straight down. So we're going to drag this straight down onto video 1. And now we have our first edit, our first cut. What is a cut? Let's define that real quick. A cut is an instantaneous change in time and space. Instantaneous. It happens instantly. So as a viewer, if you think about it, if you're in a movie theater, you probably don't even notice that a cut is happening. If you watched Avengers Endgame, you were probably so just like captivated by the movie that you never really even noticed that the cuts were happening before your eyes because it's instantaneous. The viewer shouldn't be able to see it. I call it suspension of disbelief. So as a viewer, you sit in a movie theater for an hour and a half or 3 hours, whatever it is, and you don't even realize that you're watching a movie. The screen kind of disappears and your disbelief has been suspended. You believe that you are in this movie, which is pretty neat. So that is the goal of, as an editor, is create that suspension of disbelief. We do that by efficiency and organization. All right, so let's see what we got. Again, I apologize that the computer's kind of be laggy. I think it's because I've got so many different things plugged into it. Okay, we'll move on and hopefully it'll catch up with us. Okay, moving on to the next one. So what do we got next? I think it's lagging. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command S, Command Q, and we're going to go back into the project. This happens every once in a while. I think it's happening because I've got audio coming out of the computer, an HDMI coming out of the computer into a TriCaster. So there's probably a little bit of a delay there, but we'll see if this fixes it. Most of the time it will, but just be prepared. Sometimes you do have to save and quit and then go back into the program to see if that fixes it. Okay, we're back in. Looks good to me. All right, fixed. So let's play it.
2, 3.
Looks good. All right, remember, I'm not concerned about the audio yet. We'll come back and fix audio here in a little bit, but let's move on to our shots and see what we've got. All right, our next shot looks like, this student was Dakota, by the way. Looks like we've got Dakota, and I'm just scrubbing through to make this a little bit faster. Walks up to a tree. That might work. So if I start it right about here, I realize it's out of focus. That's okay. We're going to hit I for in. We're going to let both of them pass. And right before the camera goes into chaos mode, we're going to cut it. So if I use my arrow keys, left arrow key and back it up before the camera goes crazy. Probably somewhere around there. O for out, and we are going to drag it in. All right, you'll see what's going to happen is you see the arrows linking the two shots together. That is called snapping. So snapping is a great thing. By default, Adobe Premiere Pro snaps together these items. If you don't want snapping on for whatever reason, I don't know why you wouldn't, the shortcut key is in. If you hit in, you'll see that it no longer snaps together, right? So I only say that because sometimes you accidentally hit the key in and it turns it off. So to turn that back on, in is the shortcut key, and we are going to snap these two shots together. Boy, it really does not like this computer, does it? Let's see if I switch it down to half, if that fixes it at all. Okay, let's see if that fixed it.
3,
Looks good. Yeah, all this is matching pretty good. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Let's move forward. We're going to go back into scene 1 intro, and it looks like we've got the same shots, so we're just going to skip these. All right, the next shot we have, it looks like, up again, it's him. We did a lot of those shots, didn't we? Yes, we did. Okay, so we've got another shot here. It looks like they run over and they take a sniper position. Neat. Let's see if they have a better framed one. That looks a little bit better framed. Scrubbing through this, let's take a look. Okay. All right. What else we got? So you can see that we did several different shots trying to get it. All right, so the thing is, on this shot, you can see that the lens cap is on the camera. I remember this specifically when we ran into this. So this was a good shot, but we had the lens cap on the camera, so I made him do it again. And now we have a better take. So I'm going to start it right as they're starting to come into frame, right before he reaches down. So I for in, reaches down. And we're going to stop it right as he grabs the top of the lens. O for out, okay? So again, we're going to drag it down. Okay, so what we have here is what's called a jump cut. This is bad. It snaps people out of the suspension of disbelief. So you can see that we've got Dakota here next to a tree, and the next thing you know, he's running in. So we've got to find a shot that will fill the void. So let's see if we've got one. And we do. So we've got a shot of Abelardo here coming into frame and kind of hiding behind this tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it as he's out of frame right before he enters. Use the arrow keys to back up. I for in. O for out. Okay, so let me show you the next shortcut key. What you could do, because we want this shot to go right between these two, what you could do is select this and just move it down. You could do that. I am going to show you a quick shortcut key. If you click, drag it down, and hold Command, you see that the arrows change and they're pointing to the right. That's because wherever I let go right now, it's going to move everything to the right. So I'm going to snap it to that point, let go, and it moves everything exactly to the right to fill that space. So Command and dragging it down moves everything depending on where you are. That's a great tool to use. Let's let the computer catch up. You can do it. There we go. All right. So we've got this shot here. Let's take a look. Abelardo comes in. Good. Yes, that fits a lot better now. Great. Okay, let's move forward. So we've got a cool slider shot, it looks like. There may be some audio. Let's take a look.
I'll cue you on your line. Ready? And action.
100,000 millimeters.
Okay, so that was take one. Obviously, there's going to be some mess ups, so let's take a look at take two.
And
100,000 millimeters.
ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
Okay, so we're going to stop it right, or start it right as it starts coming in. Remember, we don't want that shaky shot, so that looks pretty good. Probably start right around there. I for in.
100,000 millimeters. ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
Okay, I want to stop it right there, O for out. And we're going to drag it down again, right there. It'll snap to our shot. Now, I do remember we had a shot. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, boy. There we go. I do remember we had a shot of, there we go, a shot of him adjusting it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start right there before he moves it, I for in.
Roll it.
O for out when he stops it at the 200 millimeter mark. Okay? And I want to try and match up this action. I realize that he has his left hand on the ring right now, and on this shot it's his right hand. That's okay. We're just a learning experience right now. So we're going to try and match up this action. Let's scrub through in our timeline.
Millimeters.
You can see right about there he starts moving it, so let's back it up just a hair. Okay, and we're going to drag only the video in to layer 2. For whatever reason, I have to come back to the very beginning of the timeline and then go to the shot in order for this to work. All right, so let's take a look.
100,000 millimeters. ISO 500, 45-degree shutter. 100,000 millimeters. ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's play it one last time.
ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
And I'm actually going to drag this shot out just to fill it.
45-degree shutter.
And you'll see at the very end of this, he starts racking it backwards. So we're going to stop right before he does that. Drag it backwards, and then we're going to drag this one backwards, and we're going to drag it down to layer 1. So now we have this. Again, I have no idea why. We have to go back to the beginning.
100,000 millimeters. ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
Okay, that looks really good. Okay. So now we are going to go to our scope shot. So we have this shot right here of Corey.
You've got to fight back! Because
And what our idea was that these cameras were wartime gear. So what we did was we ended up taking this shot into After Effects and creating what looked like a sniper scope. So it was like you were looking through a sniper scope. So we're going to go up to After Effects scope, double click, and that is what we get. So it's the exact same shot, we just put this over it. Let's take a look.
you've got to fight back! You see, they take our lives!
All right, so we're going to go to the beginning. Right before he starts talking,
You've got to...
we're going to arrow key back. Right around there, I for in.
You've got to fight back!
O for out. I'm going to stop it right as he says fight back, and we are going to drag this down into the timeline. Very beginning. And let's go here and play it.
100,000 millimeters. ISO 500, 45-degree shutter. You've got to fight back!
Cool. So what we're doing right here is called parallel editing. So we've got two events happening at the exact same time. We've got Corey here, who's talking to somebody or yelling at somebody in a sniper scope. And then we've got our team, we'll call them SEAL Team 5. SEAL Team 5 is over here doing their thing. So two events are occurring at the same time. This is called parallel editing. We're editing two events at once. All right, so we're going to go back to Scene 1 intro. And our last shot, you can tell our last shot was right here. It's named 6H4A0619. So let's go locate that. 19 is right here. So let's see what shot 20 is. So it's a front angle. Let's play and see what it is.
Selecting it at D8. Scanning to stop the distortion.
Okay.
Looking into T8. Entering 2 stops for absorption.
All right, so I like this second take that we did. So let's start it right as he says, reflecting at a T8. By the way, that's film terms. All of this is film related. A T8 is equivalent to an f-stop, except a T-stop is what's called a true stop. So f-stop is kind of more a guess. It's not super accurate. But a T-stop is when they take the lens into a laboratory and they actually use microscopes and reflections and they get a true stop. So true stops are typically like 1.7. It's very odd numbers because it's an exact measurement. So he says T8, kind of funny. Let's play it and see.
Ready?
We're going to start it on the movement, I for int.
Looking into T8. Entering 2 stops for absorption.
O for out, right after he says countering 2 stops for absorption. Absorption is a light term. Again, that's what happens to different types of skin tones. The darker skin tone you have, light actually is absorbed. If you have a very pale, I should say, complexion, it actually reflects light. So absorption and reflection. And we're going to drag this shot into the timeline. It snaps together. There you go. For whatever reason, let's go to the very beginning to get it fixed. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Okay, here we go.
145-degree shutter. You've got to fight back! Looking into T8. Entering 2 stops for absorption.
Okay, so let's go back to, or let's actually go into the folder that's titled Scene 1 Battlefield. It looks like we've got soldiers here. And these are the soldiers that are actually listening to Corey speak. So kind of like this shot. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it on the shot where he says fight back.
Fight back!
Okay, so right there.
Fight!
We're going to use our arrow keys to back it up a little bit. I for int.
Fight back! Because they may take our line, but they can never...
And O for out right there. We don't really care what he says because we're going to change that in a second. Drag it down, and there's our shot. All right, let's make some edits here. Okay, he already said in this shot,
You've got to fight back!
we got to fight back. And this shot again,
Back!
he says it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the lock button, and now I cannot manipulate the video,
Fight back!
but I can manipulate the audio. So I'm going to come over here and hover at the beginning, and now I can drag this, and we are actually taking the audio away.
2 stops for absorption. Because they may take our lives, but they can never
I don't like that ending part,
take our lives.
so I'm going to stop it right at that and drag this audio back. And now let's unlock the video. So now you have this.
Stop for absorption. Because they may take our lives.
All right, let's go back to the scope. Double click on it. Let's play it.
Because they may take our lives.
All right. So what we're about to do now is called a J-cut. This is an advanced technique, but it's going to help with transitions, make them seamless. All right, so
Lives. They may take our...
we're gonna start it at "They may take our lives."
'Cause they may...
I for in,
They may take our lives.
and we're gonna stop it after the camera fires. It was supposed to mimic a fire. So O for out. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna drag this up to the top and put it on video track 2 and audio track 2. Okay. Come over here for whatever reason. And back here.
'Cause they may take our...
And we're going to try and match up as best as possible. They may take our lives. I'm using the arrow keys and I'm listening to the audio. And to my best of my knowledge, they may take our lives starts right there. So I'm going to drag this over. Okay? And what we're going to do now is play it to see if it matches up.
Because they may take our lives!
And it does pretty well. So what we can actually do now, I know we just made this weird edit with the video layer. I did that on purpose just to show you the functions. But we're going to lock the video layer, and we're just going to delete this audio layer. There's two ways to delete it. The first is a shortcut key, which is very important. If you hit Command X, it deletes. Okay? If you accidentally delete something, the undo button, your next shortcut key, is Command Z. So we're going to hit Command Z, and you'll see that it actually undoes what you just did. By default, Command Z, you can do Command Z 32 times before you can no longer undo. If you've messed up 32 times or more, then there's a big problem. So 32 times is the limit, so Command Z. We're going to select Command X, and Command Z undoes it. You can also select and hit delete, and it also deletes it. So we're going to delete it because I just want this audio actually. It's a little bit cleaner. And we're going to unlock the video track, so let's see what we got.
They may take our lives! They may take our lives!
Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to shorten this shot up to make it a little bit even. And then again, we always want one layer, so let's drag it down to video layer 1.
They may take our lives!
Looks good to me. Let's move on over to Battlefield Scene 1. Let's see what we got. Okay, so this is the part where Corey is supposedly been shot.
Lives!
So I'm going to start right there, I for N. Okay, I don't like how he looks around, so let's scrub a little further to where his eyes stop moving. I for N, and he's going to drop out of frame or start to. I'm going to stop it right before he fully drops out. O for out. We don't need the audio, so we're going to grab the video only and drag it down.
They take our lives!
Okay, next, we should have a shot. Yep, we do. We have a shot where the knees hit the ground, so we're going to start it where the knees are falling. I for in. Let it rest there, build the suspense. O for out, and we're going to drag again just the video. Actually, you know what? Let's drag the audio. I kind of like that thud that made it hit.
They may take our lives!
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, moving forward. And I realize we've got blank spots in audio. We've got a lot of audio work. Don't worry, we're going to go over that, so don't panic. We will make sure to get to that. Okay. So let's see what we've got. All right, we've got a shot where Corey falls down, and this is supposed to be our general or whoever's leading their army. I don't know all the military terms. So we're going to stop it or start it right before he starts moving forward. So somewhere around here. I for in. Play it. O for out. And drag it down to the timeline. On normal systems, I realize I'm going back and forth between the beginning and end. On normal systems, you do not have to do that. I'm pretty sure it's doing this delay because all the stuff I've plugged in, but it should be instantaneous when you're editing. So don't worry about going back to the beginning. All right, so we've got the same shot. I actually like this shot a little bit better because look, we've got some background extras moving in, okay? So what I'm gonna do is hit Command Z. It undoes it. And we're going to come up here to our source window right before he starts moving. I for in. O for out. And we're going to drag that down. So we've got this now.
They may take our lives!
Okay. We've got our general kind of what we call shell shock. So I kind of like that. Let's start it when it comes into focus. Starts to come in focus. I for in.
And rolling.
O for out. We purposely made this really long. We may shorten it up in our edit, but don't worry about it for right now. Let's just take the video, so we're going to drag it down. All right, so this is actually a jump cut again, right? You can't have jump cuts. It looks like the suspension of disbelief has been stopped. It snaps it back into reality. So let's see if we've got something to go between those shots. And we do, it looks like. Right here, right before he grabs them, let's hit I.
Sir, what do we do? What do we do?
Okay, we're going to stop it right as he says, what do you do? Or what do we do? And we're going to drag it down with our command shortcut key. So drag and hold down command, and it will snap everything to the right.
Sir, what do we do?
Okay, so what we're doing now is going to be a J cut. So we're going to have the audio from the first clip start coming in while the second clip begins. Right, so if I drag this to layer 2, and I slide it over a little bit.
Sir, what do we... Sir, what do we do? Sir, what...
All right, so we've got two options here. Option 1, you'll see that his face turns in this shot. We don't really want that, so let's see if we've got a different take. The other option would be to scale his face out of the shot. I don't know if that'll work. That won't work either. This may work.
Sir!
So we're going to start it at sir.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
Stop it right there, O for out. And again, let's do the option or the command key. So drag, hold command, and it slides everything to the right. Let's see if this works.
Sir! Sir, what do we do? Sir!
Okay, works for me. Let's drag this second shot over on top.
Sir, what do we do? Sir, what do we do?
And I actually like that audio as well, so we're going to drag it down. Let's shorten this up a little bit. Okay, so now we have this.
Sir! Sir, what do we do? Sir, what do we do?
Okay, and this is the shot where he turns and he's going to yell, so let's see what it is.
Take the hell.
Okay. I actually like that better than the other shot.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
So let's take this and delete it. Let's delete this one as well. Let's lock our video layer and correct this shot so it's back.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
Now, let's come over here to where he's looking down. I for in.
Take the hell. Take the hell!
And O for out as they start to get up. All right, let's take a look.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
Take the hell.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it. Obviously, you heard all of them laughing in the background. You heard me giving directions. So we're going to lock the video layer, and let's just drag this audio back.
Sir, what do we do?
So now you have all that kind of erased. Don't worry, we're going to fix all these blank spots.
Take the hell!
Okay, easy enough. Okay, so we've been now recording for an hour, and you can tell we've got, based on our time code, about 1 minute, 2 seconds, and give or take 20 frames. So that's the amount of work it takes just to get a minute of video edited. We're gonna go back now. I'm gonna show you some shortcut stuff for audio and the purposes. Also go over all of our shortcut keys because that's very important if we did not get our shortcut keys. So let's do this. The first thing I remember while it's still fresh on my mind.
What do we do?
I'm actually gonna go back and get some more audio of him yelling.
Keep going. You keep doing the same thing.
Sir!
So right there, use the arrow key, back it up. Right there, you can start hearing him say the S. So I for in.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
O for out. And we've done the video before, but we've never done the audio. So we're just gonna drag audio, and I'm gonna put it right there on video layer 2 to make sure I like it.
Sir, what do we do? Sir! Sir, what do we do?
And maybe we have him say, what do you do, one more time.
Sir, what do we do?
Let's find a different shot so the inflections are a little bit different.
Sir, what
I
do
for
we
in,
do?
O for out. Let's drag that in and we'll put it there.
Sir! Sir, what do we do? What do we do? Take the hell!
Yeah, I like that. And then again, we don't like this checkerboard editing, so make sure you have everything on one layer if possible. We do that for a purpose because we are actually going to add different things. All right, let's go fix some audio, shall we? Let's go back to the beginning and listen.
2, 3.
Okay, so this first shot, almost all of it is unusable. We have finished what I like as the first minute of video, so I'm gonna go ahead and lock it. We will not make any changes to the video, but almost all of that audio was unusable, so I'm just gonna delete it. Command X. Let's play the second shot.
$100,000 ISO 500, 45-degree shutter.
You've got to fight back!
Collecting in a T8. Entering 2-stop for Dorkin.
They may take our lives!
All right, so we heard something there. Okay, so what we're actually gonna do is right there, take this audio and drag it back.
Sir! 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 Sir, what do we do? Sir! Sir, what do we do? What do we do? Take the hell!
Okay, so we've got a nice baseline set. So what we're gonna do now is start adding in our audio. But before that, let me just make sure that we go over all these. I've got a list of items that I wanted to make sure we cover. So let me do that before I forget. The first one is, how do we unlink audio and video? So again, whoops. If I drag audio around right now and video, it's linked together. You can't separate these two. We've gone over how to fix that. You could lock the video, and now you can manipulate the audio without the video. Or if you want to, you could right-click on it and go to Unlink. And now what it does is it makes these separate items, okay? So if you want to do it that way, you certainly can. Let's put this back. The next item on our list is, how do we find footage? right? So I really like this shot, for instance, but I have no idea where it is. The quick shortcut key to do that is if you right-click and you go to Reveal in Project, it'll come over here into your project window and it'll show you exactly where it's at. This is the shot that you were editing with, right here. Okay, so that's a great handy tool. If you want to find it on your desktop, you do the same thing. Right-click, Reveal in Finder, and it'll come up and say that it is in Footage on your desktop, and there it is. So if you ever need to find your shots, that is a handy shortcut. We went over Command Z. We talked about snapping, how to delete. All right, Command C. So that is the shortcut key for copy. If you select something and hit Command C, and then I'm going to come over here and hit Command V, it's going to paste. So copy is Command C, Command V is paste. That is very handy, especially when we start adding audio effects and video effects, because you can just simply copy those and paste them onto other shots. All right, we've basically been setting in point and out points and then dragging, but there is another very important shortcut key, that is B for blade. If you hit B, it now turns into a blade and allows you to cut the clips. So now you can delete them, right? So you can make small edits if you wanted to. So B for blade is the cutting tool, okay? To get back to your normal tool, you'll see that if I hit B, it turns into like a razor blade. Your normal tool is an arrow. These are your tools over here. So your normal tool is an arrow. You could hit A for arrow, and it'll just pop back to your normal tool that we've been using, okay? T is a very neat feature, especially if you've got a lot of edits going on. Like if you've got, this is only a minute-long project, but imagine if it was a 12-minute-long project, how many edits you would have. So let's say, man, I need to put a shot in like right here, or I need to add a sound effect right here. You could simply drag and select all these things and then drag it, right? But again, imagine if you had a 12-minute project. That's a lot of selecting, okay? What you can do is if you come over here and hit T, it turns into two arrows, and if you select it, it selects everything to the right of where you selected. So that's a very handy tool, T. All right, Command H. If you hit Command H, that is your hide tool, so it'll hide Premiere Pro. So that'll allow you to get to the internet or other applications if you need to. Command R, we're going to do, that's very, 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 very important. We'll do a lot of that tomorrow, but I'll show you briefly what it does. Right now, you'll see that you have a yellow line over on your timeline. The yellow line means your computer can keep up. It may have some problems, but it is working properly. A green line means it's good to go, and if you have a red line, that means it can no longer keep up with what you're doing, so you need to do what's called render. So I'm just going to make a quick change to this shot, and you'll see that it has in fact turned red. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and hit Command R, and it's going to do what it's called rendering. And basically, it's saving a new reference file onto your computer for it to be able to process what you just did to that shot. Now it's going to turn green, so that means it's good to go, and it can keep up with our shots. Okay? So that is render. I'm going to Command Z that. Oops. Edit redo. Okay, next, Command J. Command J is your speed tool or reversal tool. So if I select a clip and hit Command J, you can see that you can change the speed. So let's make it 50%. Again, it's going to need rendering, but it's going to go a lot slower, right? So that might be a neat feature. In fact, we might use that here in a second. Or if you hit Command J, you can reverse it. So now if I play it, right? He's going in reverse speed. Okay, so that's Command J. M is for markers. So if I hit M, well, if I click my timeline and I hit M, oh, it did not like that. Well, it's having trouble keeping up with me. But normally if you hit M, what's going to happen is it's going to add a marker like that. It's going to add a marker in your timeline. So this is handy if you want to come back, like you know that you want to make a change right here. I use this a lot for music videos because we like to cut on the tom, or the tom hit. So I'll come over here and set markers to every tom hit. That way when I start making edits, I know this is where I need to be. It's also handy because if you set a marker, your clips can actually snap to the marker. So that's kind of neat. Okay? All right, let's make some audio adjustments real fast and then we will be done for the day. So I'm going to come up here, and the very first thing I always like to do is just like add an underlying ambience. So let's go to sound effects, and we've got a dark ambience. Let's take a listen. Maybe too dark. Let's come over to the end. Let's see. Sure, why not? So what we're going to do is start it right here. We're going to hit I for in. And then we're going to play it out a little bit. And keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be as long as you want it because we can always extend it. So I'm going to stop it right there, O for out. And I'm going to drag down the audio just to layer 2. Okay, so let's go to the beginning and play it. Okay, you see it here. You hear it start pretty abruptly, so I'm going to drag this pretty much all the way out until we see, maybe we stop it right there. This will add something else. We're going to stop it right there, drag it back, and let's hear it. Okay, so what you probably just heard there is this is actually too loud. It's interfering with the actual audio from our dialogue. So we will go over how to manipulate audio tomorrow, but just for now, we need to actually do this. So you click on it, you go to Effect Controls, and we are going to adjust this to, I don't know, -18 probably. And that is how you adjust the volume, so it should be a lot softer now. Skip forward a little bit.
ISO 500, 45-degree shutter. You've got to fight back!
Yeah, it sounds a lot better. All right, so let's move forward. Now, the one thing I am missing from the very beginning is it sounds too quiet. There's no rustling in it or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to scene 1 intro, and let's see if we can just find a lot of the ambience from the camera of where they're crunching the leaves, and we don't have audio going over it. So let's see if we can find that.
Two.
So that won't work.
3.
But this one will. So right after I am done talking, you probably start it right there, I for in. And O for out, and we're going to drag this down to layer 3 because we do not know if it's long enough to overwrite. It's not, so we can actually put that back on layer 1 and drag it out a little more, and let's listen. Okay, we're gonna have to stop it right before I actually start talking. Let's see if we can get lucky by sliding this over and actually extending the beginning. Let's see. I think it'll work. Awesome. All right, let's move forward. So the next thing I saw was I would really love right here if we had a sound effect of it like cooking into the actual fluid head. So let's come over here to our sound effects and see if we've got something. We've got a bass drop, the ambience. We've got another bass drop, slow motion, warfare sound effects. Let's go to this and see what it is. That sounded like a bass. Bass. We love the bass. Okay, those are body hits. Let's see what these are. Warfare. Gun. Guns. Machine gun. A laser. Bone hit. Those won't work. Okay, camera. Warfare. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have one. I'll have to find one, but in the meantime, just know that I would probably add a sound effect right there of them actually clicking it in. All right, let's add another sound effect right around here.
They may take our lives!
Okay, so right there, we're gonna add a camera click. Okay, so let's go over here. I think it was at the beginning. So we're gonna stop it. Those are just repeating, so we're just going to take one of them. I for in, right as it starts. And stop it before the next one starts. O for out, it's a real short, and we're going to drag it down to track 1. Now, sometimes when you import sound effects, it creates like 5 or 6 channels. Obviously, we don't need that many channels, so what you can do is you can lock that layer and then go ahead and select and delete all these. You don't need all those layers. So let's take a look and see what we got. Okay, that looks good to me. I think it'd be really neat to have like some actual warfare sound effects coming into play now. Okay, I for in. O for out, and we're going to drag this down. Again, it's going to create so many layers, so we're actually going to layer it right underneath, right there. We're going to lock layer, what is that, 4? Yes, it is. And delete these. Let's play it. That's kind of a neat layer. Let's take the audio down. Maybe 12 decibels. Okay, so this is our shell shock, so we should have a sound effect that says, yes we do, shell shock, so let's play it. So I definitely want this to be like the overlaying, like very powerful shell shock, so this will probably be pretty loud, and this will be the majority of the sound that I want at this time. So O for out, Remember, we can always drag it out. So we're going to drag this underneath, so lock this layer and delete the rest. All right, so we want this to kick in right as we see Andrew. Right about there. Let's drag this up over here.
Sir! Sir, what do we do?
We want the war sound effects to continue throughout the whole thing, so let's drag it out.
Sir! Sir, what do we do? Sir! Sir, what do we do?
Let's drag this out more.
What do we do?
And we want it to stop right as he snaps out of it, so probably somewhere right around here. Drag it back.
What do we do? Take the hill!
Okay, we're getting close. All right, the next thing I want to add, let's see if we have some type of whoosh or anything. I don't think we do. But I remember. Interesting. Sound effects that we would want, but I would definitely add a few more sound effects. We do have some visual effects. I'll show you briefly how to add those in. These effects have already been converted to like a PNG style. It doesn't have the alpha layer, so you'll see that, like, you know, it's got like an explosion here. So we've got like dirt charges. Oh, here we go. That's what I was looking for. So I'm going to start that right as it picks up. I for in, O for out. And now if I put this right as it ends, it's kind of a nice transition.
What do we do? Take the hill!
So that's kind of neat. We could even layer that further. What is this? So we could double layer it. You know, just drag this in, put it on layer 5. Let's see what it is.
What do we do? Take the hill!
That's kind of cool. All right. I do want to show you like some, not sound effects. What is FX2? This is like dirt coming at you. So you could add that. There we go. Atmosphere is what we want. So we got different types of atmospheres. And I kind of like this. So let's just drag this in right around here. We're going to put on video layer 2. Now this may look ridiculous. That is okay. We'll get it fixed. Yeah. All right, so what you would want to do is, I would probably, again, we're going to go over this tomorrow, or Wednesday, but you would go to Effect Controls, scale this pretty far up, kind of move it down. That way when you play it, it's really subtle, but it creates that atmosphere. You know, I'd probably start it right around there. Shorten this up. Yeah, that looks more believable, and then you can color it and everything. So it's just creating that atmosphere. It looks pretty good. But that is unfortunately going to be our time for the day. Now I realize that was a ton of information. I get it. Don't just remember that you can always go back and review this. I'm sure there's things I forgot that I'll probably bring up to Wednesday. Just make sure that you review it on the Springdale Public Schools YouTube channel on the AMI Video Productions playlist. Now, I told you at the very beginning of this tutorial that if you stuck around for this marathon, I would show you what I looked like almost 8 years ago. So, without further ado, let's go to that ending shot. I know that's what everybody stuck around for. And there you go. Whoa. I'll even, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Another shortcut key. If we come over here, if you double click on Program, it actually takes it full screen. And there you go. That is my goofy self 8 years ago. Wow. What happened to me? All right. That's going to wrap it up for our third part of Editing Tutorial 101. Make sure you tune in next time as we begin part 4 of this 5-part tutorial. We will take a look at the Effects tab and Effects Controls. So we will be going over how to manipulate video and audio. And we are also getting to get into a few other editing layouts like graphics and color. Not to mention the joke of the day, and maybe by then, fingers crossed, they will finally find someone to replace me. I'm Travis Sherman, and may the force be with you.